Hey, welcome to In the Paint, everybody. Scott Spreitzer here with Rafael Esparza, Griffin Murphy. In the Paint, the show that told you St. John's back in January, early January at 40-1, and now everybody's talking about them. I had to pat ourselves on the back for just a minute there because we've been talking St. John's for 8 to 10 weeks, right? And here they are, winners of the Big East. But we got a lot to talk about today. Before we jump into it, free $60 account, folks. You see it there at the bottom of your screen. Below the video, you'll see a link for that. If you're not yet a member at DocSports.com, you can click on that link. You can set yourself up for that free $60 account, and then you can use those free $60 on any of our daily packages over at DocSports.com. It is as simple as that. Cool way to give it a trial run. If you wish, guys, man, I'm ready. I hope you guys are ready. We got playing stuff Tuesday night, playing stuff Wednesday night. I really couldn't care less if North Carolina's in the tournament or not, or, UC Gauchos are in or not, or whatever. Bottom line is, it's all about handicapping the point spread from here on out. So put any teams you want in there, NC2A, and we'll have at it. But I wanted to start everything, guys, by getting your thoughts on your pick. I'll give mine after you guys, your pick to win the NC2A championship as we sit here at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 18th.
I'll start off.
Go ahead, Ralph.
I'm going to say West Virginia. Oh, wait a minute. There's still legal action trying to see why they're not in the dance. But I'll say I'm going to go defense wins championships. We say it all the time in pretty much almost every sport except baseball when you all want to say pitching wins championship. But defense wins championship. That's why I like the Houston Cougars at 6-1 to cut down the nets. I know everyone's going to talk about the big guys in Florida, SEC, Duke with Cooper Flag. But I like defense in this game. I think Houston's defense is going to be the main reason why they're cutting down the nets. I mean, they just suffocate you. Ask Arizona, not once but twice. I just love the way they play defense.
Griffin?
Yeah, Scott. My team to win it all, Florida Gators. Plus odds of plus 340. And listen, this team finished second in the SEC, but they just beat down Tennessee in the championship game in the SEC championship. And Todd Golden, what a job this guy has done with this team. He set this team up perfectly aligned for success. They're set up in that bracket right now, perfectly right now, dealing with Norfolk State first off in the first round. Then in the second round, it's either going to be UConn or Oklahoma. This Florida Gators team is better than anybody I am watching right now. They crash the paint. They crash the boards. They bang from the perimeter. They do everything right. I got them going against Auburn. I'm taking the Gators. You put them up against any team right now, I am sold on this team. One team, though, that I will go with as a confluence, Ralph, I do like Houston as well as my other team. That is the one team that scares me in this tournament other than the Gators. But I am high on them right now by the way this team is performing, Scott.
Mm-hmm. You know what? My work's done. Ditto. I'll tell you that one of the guys that I've known for many years in the handicapping and sports betting business is a guy by the name of Ralph Michaels, and he sends me all these great angles. And I wanted to give him a little shout out. So he went back and he looked and he said the last 13 of the last 14 all went into the dance rated in the top 22 in Ken Palm's offensive and defensive efficiency numbers. The teams this year that fall into that, Duke, Florida, Auburn, Houston, Tennessee, and Iowa State. And guys, I had to eliminate Iowa State right off the bat when I started jumping into this because of Gilbert being, out for the Cyclones. Yeah. So then I had those other 5 teams to look at. I combined that with the fact that number 1 seeds have won 11 of the last 12 national titles. And I'm going to side with Griffin here with Florida. Shop around. I saw plus 380 at a couple of places as of about 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. There are no weaknesses. They face the 17th ranked schedule in college basketball. In comparison, and I'm not holding this against Duke, but in comparison, Duke played the 56th ranked schedule. Houston, I love Houston. They're men among boys when they take the floor. Every freaking night, they're like men among boys, or at least 98% of the time they take the floor. The only thing that scares me about them is that they're 268th in the country in 2-point accuracy. Auburn, I eliminated them. They commit too many personal fouls. Their backcourt lets them down in tourneys the last couple of years. And this year, they spent a lot of their time being led by a freshman point guard by the name of Pettiford, who's really talented, but he had a bad SEC tourney. 11 assists, 8 turnovers, 3 of 13 shooting the 2. He went 1 for 9 from area code 3 in those last 2 games of the SEC. So I came up with the Florida Gators. I think the deciding factor for me on Tennessee, I don't trust Rick Barnes. That was basically their biggest weakness for me. So Griffin and I get to go with the Florida Gators. Raphael is going to go with Houston. I cannot find any fault with Houston other than that 2-point accuracy, so I'm not going to be shocked if they're playing for the championship
I just
either.
went anti-SEC.
Yeah, I get
give
it.
me a
Yeah.
This is a kid's show. I'm not going to say the F word, but give me a freaking break. And I'm tired of strength of schedule. Although look at the strength of schedule SEC. Some of those teams like Oklahoma, they probably wouldn't be able to last in the Big 12 or a slower paced team like in the Big 10. Give me a break. 14 teams in the SEC. Get rid of that. I'm with West Virginia. I'm going to be on the trial. I'm hoping I'm on the jury case on that one. I want to be a juror for that one.
By the way, the Dodger cap, I almost didn't make it today because I decided to be up at 3 a.m. Pacific time when the game started against the Cubs in Tokyo. And I think I nodded off like the 7th inning, which was probably
supposed to be.
It was like 5 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm like, I got the TV going. I'm falling asleep on the couch. The wife, probably checked on me 2 or 3 times to wonder what I'm doing down there at 6 a.m. after not sleeping. But anyway, let's get to first round matchups and games that jumped out at us. I'll kick it off this time, guys. I was going to talk about Colorado State and Memphis, but I decided to wait on that. I'm going to be doing a video on that a little bit later on Tuesday over at DocSports.com so the folks can check that out if they wish. Because really, when I looked at it, the first game that jumped out at me, and Raphael just mentioned one of the teams, and it's not like we're trying to set each other up with great segues here, but the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm looking at them against UConn. That game caught my eye. The Sooners go 6-12 in SEC play, 7-13 since that 13-0 start. And those 13 wins, by the way, came against the 319th ranked non-conference schedule. They might not have Sam Godwin, the forward who goes about 6'10". He's questionable. He's Oklahoma's only starter who's taller than 6'6". They got a couple of big bodies that come off the bench, but Godwin's the only starter with any kind of, real size. The reason I found it was interesting, besides the fact that I don't like the Sooners in this tournament, is UConn. I want to see what the best March coach over the last several years does with this team. Dan Hurley spent last week talking about the fact that he says 50% of his roster is thinking about transferring elsewhere in the offseason. He's the hothead of college basketball. He's the new Bobby Knight. I love when he gets ticked off and the crowd's going, Hurley's angry in unison, the road teams, the road crowds. And so I want to see what he can do here. They look like they were getting it together, won 5 in a row, then got beat by Creighton by 9 at MSG last weekend. They're much more talented than OU. They should be fine. I like them here, but I thought it was a very intriguing matchup for those reasons I just mentioned. But I think UConn advances and gets the covers also, Griffin.
Yeah, so I don't disagree whatsoever. My first round early matchup is going to be between this Kansas and Arkansas game, Scott. And I've got to say, this Kansas team, they've been inconsistent all season long on the road, man. And it's been fully public. But we have to remember, this is March Madness, and we know Billy Parcells knows how to win the big game. When it's March Madness time, you kind of have to look at a different situation when it comes to neutral site play. Yes, we know that they were terrible on the road all season long, but now they're going to get that energetic feel. They're back in that element. And this is what Kansas does year in, year out. Arkansas, they finished the regular season going 20-13 on the year, and they're coming off a loss to Ole Miss in their most recent game. And Arkansas, they've been a very tough team in the SEC, and John Calipari, I can't take anything away from this guy. He's a phenomenal coach, and he's also a guy that's going to go head-to-head with any other coach. It's a coin toss game at the end of the day, but I'm looking at the more solidified team who's proven to be a better team in this type of environment. And that's where I'm on Kansas in this one. So, Scott, in this matchup, I'm laying the points with the JayHawks. I'm minus 4.5 with Kansas.
Raphael?
I'm going to the one that Seth, what's his name on CBS, screwed me the other day when he says, watch out for this team, because I was ready to watch out on this team, and now everyone's watching this team. I'm taking UC San Diego going against Michigan on that game. I can't wait to watch when the number one Michigan opened up at 2.5. I was hoping to get a little bit more points on the Tritons. It's now, open up at 2. Now it's 2.5. I'm hoping the betting public maybe takes some Wolverine money so I can maybe get +3. But don't sleep on this team out west. I know they lost back-to-back games to the Anteaters, but the Anteaters have been really, really tough all season. But UC San Diego ranks 10th in the NCAA in defense, holding opponents to 63.5 points per game. This team can really tighten it up. And I always said before, the champ, whoever wins this team is going to win on defense. San Diego's defense is really, really good. I think they can stifle Michigan, who struggles to shoot the three ball. Yes, I know they won 3 straight. Yes, they cut down the nets, but that was Wisconsin's fault that they lost that game.
Yeah.
They didn't beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin let them beat them. And they came back after that 3-game losing, dropping 3 games heading into the Big Ten tournament. So I'm not really sold on this Michigan team. Hats off. They had Juwan Howard there. They fired him, got a new head coach, brought in some new players. Great story. Love watching Michigan. But this team, San Diego, is going to be a tough out, especially with their defense. If Michigan struggles to score, this one could be a tight one. And I can see San Diego advancing, even though Seth beat me to the punch on Sunday. Thanks a lot.
You know, I try to brown nose the boss at Doc Sports again with that Big Ten championship. And I had Wisconsin last week, and it was a 4-star player or whatever. And boy, I was ticked off with the way they gave that game away. You're right. And you know what? If they played tomorrow, I'd take Wisconsin again. That's how little confidence I had in that matchup when it came with Michigan. And I like your UC San Diego side. We're trying to, here in Las Vegas, they fired their head coach, Kevin Kruger, which is a bummer. I mean, he deserved to be canned. He's not gotten him anywhere, but a bummer because the Kruger family is such a great family in this town. We're trying to raid the Big West for a coach. UCI, UC San Diego, we'll take either coaching staff or bring him here to Las Vegas, and we'll be happy with that. So I agree with you there too. I mean, there's some really good coaches in the Big West right now, at least at the top of the standings. I want to talk about the number 1 seed that you guys believe are going to be knocked out of the tournament before we get to the Final Four. Griffin, kick things off for us.
Auburn's getting the upset, Scott. I'm calling it right now. They got to deal with the winner of Louisville and Creighton. Then later down the line, potentially Michigan in the South, along with Texas A&M. I can see Creighton giving them an early bird upset. I would not be surprised. And most definitely, Michigan is never an easy task. And after what we just saw, what they did to Wisconsin, absolutely incredible. I mean, this team was explosive in the second half, and they are so big on the boards. And that is what wins big games. On the boards. They crashed the paint. They set their guys up for the perimeter shot and absolutely banged. This is March Madness. Anything could happen. The South is by far the toughest bracket I've seen in my eyes, Scott. So in this sequence, I've got Auburn. I don't think they're even going to make the Final Four. So I got them being my number 1 upset.
I'm a little concerned here because I think we all might be talking about the same 1 seed, Raphael. What you got here,
yes, man? Ditto. But I'm going to go on the playing game that's going to be playing while you guys are watching this video, or if you watch it tomorrow. The outcome is today, Tuesday, is St. Joseph's Day. And I'm fading the Saints. St. Francis loses to Alabama State, and Alabama State can maybe put some pressure onto Auburn. I am not sold on Auburn either. They dropped 3 of their last 4. They do not look like the same team that beat Alabama early in the season, and we all thought they were going to walk away with the title and maybe cut down the nets. I'm not sold right now. We all agree Florida is the best team in the SEC right now, and not Auburn. So I think they go down, and I agree with Griffin 100%. They don't make it to the Final Four. Heck, I don't even think they make it to the Great 8.
I was going to say, we're going to make it a clean sweep, which means run out and take Auburn to win your national title.
Auburn,
because we're all on Auburn as being the 1 seed that gets knocked out before the Final Four. If they survive and get to the Elite 8, you're talking about a potential matchup with Michigan State, Tom Izzo in March. Of course, we're talking about this on March 18th, but I'd back Sparty right now if they're playing each other. And again, I kind of talked about Auburn earlier. I don't like this backcourt. I love them talent-wise, but a freshman doing a lot of year ball handling when you're talking about his first trip like this into the big dance would really hurt against a coach like Tom Izzo and what Michigan State has. So I think there's going to be a couple of opportunities for teams to knock off Auburn along the way. What are they, by the way? I've got to click on my app here and maybe jump on Auburn to win the national title. Anyway, let's go on to a regional winner. A pick for a regional winner. Raphael, kick things off for us.
Which one you want me to start off? Anyone? Does it matter?
I thought you were going to talk about your favorite team from a certain region to win that region. That's at least what I did. So I'm a little bit,
Scott.
A little bit goofy between the ears today after being up till 6 a.m. watching baseball. So, so fire away with whatever you prepped for, brother.
I'll name them all. In the East, I'm brown nosing it because I think Wisconsin is going to come in this playoffs or in this tournament really pissed off on losing against Michigan. I'll take the plus 850 for them to win in that region. In the Midwest, it's a team I have coming out and cutting down the nets. Houston at plus 105. I'm a little bit shocked that you can get plus money on Houston to win that region. And in the South, you said it's Michigan State. I mean, Michigan State they do wonders with bad teams in March Madness. Now they have a good team in March Madness. They can shock a lot of teams. And then the West is the only team that I think that can beat Houston, and it's Florida. They got 7-footers coming off the bench. Every time you blink your eye, there's a 7-footer coming out there. So I got those are my final four. So I get 2 number ones. So I'm not completely chalk.
Not completely, Griffin.
Yeah, I got Houston winning this thing at plus 120, Scott. I mean, Houston's proven it all season long. You got Kelvin Sampson. He's one of the best coaches in the nation. The best defense in the nation, ranked second across efficiency. And I think they have the easiest bracket if I have to look at it. I think they'll blow through Zaga or Georgia. And then they have Purdue in the mix. And Purdue, they're by no means the same Boilermakers team that we watched last season with Edey. Or maybe that was 2 years ago with Edey. Am I mistaken?
Last year.
Last year.
Last year with Edey. And all they really have is Braden Smith. And I mean, the kid bangs from the perimeter, but they're just not as big on height. And that's the biggest thing. They don't clean up on rebounds. So I see so many liabilities in this Midwest region. And Houston, they're just the most powerful team. Kelvin Sampson, defensive rating, second in the nation. Give me Houston plus 120. There's nothing really else to say.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's funny. The reason I knew Purdue was last year for sure is because September of 2023, football season, it was opening week of the NFL. And I'm walking on a Friday, walking into the circuit to do a show with Visa. And I run up and I bet Purdue 2 months before the season started to win the Natty in college basketball. They were 17-1. So plucked a couple of dimes down there at 17-1. All those months later, 6 months later, they're playing for the national title. I decided not to hedge. I'm just not, if I had 20 grand on it at 17-1, guess what? I'm hedging. At 1 or 2 dimes, I'm not hedging. And I ended up getting beat. But that was, I didn't have a play like that this year, guys, before the season. I didn't have a future that I locked into. It was, the Johnnies in early January when we saw them popping up, and we talked about it at 40-1 when I jumped in there. At 40-1, I'll be hedging if I get an opportunity at any point of this tournament. I'm telling you right now. What are you shaking your head for?
Boys and girls always hedge. If he would have hedged that one, Scott could have bought more Ralph Lauren polos that he's wearing right now. People always hedge.
I got a closet full of them. Anyway, guys, my regional winner is going to be, I thought the best of all the regions was Michigan State at that number of plus 500 in the South. To get to the Elite Eight, they've got Bryant, Marquette, or New Mexico. Both of those teams are outside the power-rated top 25. I'm not a Shaka Smart fan when it comes to March Madness. Then they get either Ole Miss or Iowa State. Talked about Iowa State not having Gilbert. Ole Miss 3-5 their last 8 games. They're outside the top 25 in power ratings. Likely going to face Auburn. There's a good chance for that, at least in the Elite Eight. Maybe A&M in the Elite Eight. And I like Michigan State over either one of those teams. We talked about Auburn and their deficiencies. Texas A&M can't shoot. I mean, they're going to play hard. They're going to play defense, but they can't shoot the basketball. And I think Tom Izzo will be able to have things figured out. That was my 2 seed too, Raphael. I think Michigan State gets to the Final Four. And again, like Griffin, we both have Florida to win the whole title. And, of course, you got the Houston Cougars there. People talk about, don't be so chalky. Well, the number 1 seed wins over and over and over. And I gave out the prerequisite sent to me by Ralph Michaels when it comes to, again, what the prerequisite is for the last 9 national titles. So you're talking about a 1 or 2 seed almost every year is going to have the best opportunity, as you would assume, to win the national title. Either one of you with any final thoughts before we close it out this week?
No, always a pleasure being on the show with you gentlemen. Come on, man. It's always a blast. I love getting on with you guys. It's March Madness. We're getting jacked up here. Let's go.
We got at least one more show. We'll have a Sweet 16 show next Tuesday. So
my 2 cents for this is don't blow your wad on all Thursday games. You got games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, NIT, CBI, and don't sleep on games that are not revolved around March Madness. Don't sleep on the NBA. Don't sleep on the NHL, because I can guarantee you the odds makers are not really paying attention to the stuff, because it's all the money's coming in on college basketball. So a team in the NHL that might be minus 160 in the afternoon that would maybe move to close to $2 on a normal week, probably not going to move, because maybe they didn't move the number because they're too busy watching all that $25 spring break money coming in. So keep an eye out for some nice 9 moves.
Great advice. Real quick story. Yeah. Always got to do a quick story here. And Uncle Scott, and to fit what you just said, Raphael, I can't remember. I think it was around 90 or 91 when I'm 22 years old. And Greg Darabin, Raphael, he passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago at a young age. but Greg Darabin was a handicapper and bet, a real good friend of mine, very close, still close to his sons who are basically about Griffin's age now. But we're down there at the Westgate, which was in the Las Vegas Hilton, 1990, 91, whatever. I remember the opening game I bet, and I hammered it. And I'm talking when I'm 22, when I'm hammered it, there ain't a whole lot of dollars to hammer with, but I did. For me, it was a lot. Too much. Too big of a percentage. I was young and dumb. And I bet Nebraska over, was it Penn or Princeton? It was anyway, they were a favorite. They lost outright. And I got hammered all morning long. And I'm not talking about the good way with free comp drinks. I'm talking about getting beat up. Yeah. Ran to the bank, got more money, came back, lost more. Ran to the bank again, came back, bailed out a little bit, got a little bit back in the NBA that night of all things. Meanwhile, Greg Darabin's over there going like 9-0. And I'm like, oh, you jerk. You know? Anyway, so there's my story about why Raphael is right. You don't need to come out guns a-blazing on Thursday just because there are games. Be sure to be very choosy and pick your spots. You can find all of our plays over at DocSports.com with 10 other guys. And again, don't forget about that free $60 account. Click on that below the link if you're not yet a member and use that wisely on your daily picks. He's Griffin. He's Raphael. I'm Scott. For Michelle, our producer, we're DocSports.com's In the Paint. We'll be right back here for the Sweet 16 next week. Put them in the win column, everybody.